Time now for a look at what's happening in the French papers. Belle Lupton has been scouring those for us and joins us now in studio. Good day to you, Belle.
Hello, Eve.
Now, it's a British face, rather, that is taking the front pages of all the French papers.
It certainly is. It's Chris Froome's face. So this is the Brit who took the yellow jersey yesterday at the Tour de France for the second time in 3 years. He was saying there, "I will never trample on the yellow jersey." He's quoted as saying in L'Équipe, which is a French sports paper. That is a reference essentially to the fact that he says he will not disrespect that yellow jersey, because, of course, he's been under suspicion, predominantly from the French press, of potentially having doping, potentially not playing by the rules. So this was his declaration yesterday from the podium as he sought to justify himself again, having been fighting all that suspicion the whole way round. L'Équipe, the sports paper, describes him as the symptom of a sport that cleared from its records the contender who styled himself as the champion of his generation. And of course, that was Lance Armstrong. Since then, L'Équipe says, with every exceptional performance and every time a cyclist races ahead of his competitors, he'll have to justify that performance and prove his honesty in the face of often unfounded accusations of cheating. So obviously, a lot of accusations, mainly flying around in that French press. But Le Parisien, a French tabloid here, takes the victory at face value. It says Froome's coronation. That's its headline. Froome, you can see there next to Nairo Quintana and Alejandro Valverde. Libération, the left-wing paper, has the blues over the fact that there hasn't been a French winner for 30 years. So it's not quite so cheerful. Now, bleu, blanc, rouge would have been the French tricolore. Instead, Libération gives us bleu, blanc, blues, which is their headline on this. There you go. You can see it there. Bleu, blanc, blues. The paper says it's a failure at home, and it puts it down to less funding for French teams, a lack of training, and perhaps a more rigorous attitude in France towards doping.
Or maybe the British are just better cyclists.
Surely not.
Surely not. Well, or it could be more rigorous towards doping. However, less rigour, we're being told, in putting criminals into prison here in France. The number of people in jails has come down. How's that been covered?
Well, the right-wing paper Le Figaro is sceptical about this 2% drop in detainees in prison. It says this figure is even more surprising because the crime statistics are up. So it suggests the drop in prison numbers is for show rather than a reflection of what's actually going on in society. It's just part of a numbers game. Now, Le Figaro, being right-wing, wastes no time in putting this all down to the government's Justice Minister, Christiane Taubira, who has been the opposition's target ever since she pushed through the gay marriage bill. So obviously kind of trying as much as they can to put her in the spotlight and placing it all on her.
OK. Staying somewhat on French prisons now, there's a French jihadi fighter that has come back from Syria and is telling all.
This is in more than one paper, but Le Parisien here has a 2-page spread called Confessions of a Jihadist. Now, according to the tabloid, this young man handed himself into police 2 days after his return to France from the Arab region, so from Syria and Iraq, where he was fighting. And he's offered a testimonial on the path and lives of hundreds of French citizens who choose to go and fight with IS. Now, this path looks a lot like those who have gone before him. An education that was cut short, then petty crime, then a spell in prison where he was radicalised by a group of prisoners who call themselves the Muslim Brothers. That was enough to make him want to go and join the fight in IS. He went via Turkey, crossed the border into Syria in a taxi, and then went to Raqqa for training in 2 different camps. Now, the second camp there was to familiarise him with all sorts of weapons. Those are his words. All the weapons like Kalashnikovs, pistols, rocket launchers, machine guns. And then at the end of his training, recruits were asked to choose on their pathway. Now, those who chose to go on to suicide missions, he says, were about a dozen of them. Now, he says he chose not to go into suicide missions, but to become a part of the Islamic police. But the atrocities that were committed by the group that he witnessed and what he calls their barbarism forced him, or tempted him rather, to return to France. Now, he defends himself in France, saying he had no criminal intentions.
No, he had seen a different perception of that group from far away. Well, staying with the Islamic State group, and indeed Turkey, which has come under a lot of criticism in the past for not being strong enough against them. We've now seen they began operations in the north of Syria against the group. How's that going down in the French papers?
A lot of talk of double play, double games, double wars. So Libération calls it Erdogan's double war because they say Turkey isn't just striking IS, it's also striking the PKK, the Kurdistan's Workers' Party in northern Iraq. Now, huge strikes all over the country have targeted PKK networks, and Libération is worried that Turkey considers the PKK as dangerous as IS. Now, left-wing or communist paper L'Humanité also going with that same double game. They call it the dangerous double game by Turkey. They say Syria's war is less about eradicating IS in the region than it is about halting the victories gained by the Kurds.
Indeed, it does look like a complicated situation over there and getting increasingly more so. Belle Upton there with the French papers. Thanks indeed for that.